Hello everyone and welcome back to Cricket Unfiltered. I'm your host Andrew Menzel. I've got an upgrade today. I've kicked out Jaleesa and Paul and I've got a WBBL winner and star of the Breakers in the Sydney Thunder, Phoebe Litchfield. Phoebe, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. How's your off-season going?
It went well. Stuck into pre-season now, but it was a break I needed, I think.
Excellent. And alongside Phoebe is a 3-time BBL champ, the man they call the King of Pune. And just before we started recording, we were going through his contract that has been offered by the UAE League. I'm speaking, of course, of Stephen O'Keefe, who took 301 first-class wickets. Unbelievable. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Manners. Phoebe, how are we? Yeah, we're going. Everyone's going well. Phoebe's well. You're
good.
well.
Yeah, I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
Life's good.
I read with interest, Sock, that you're going around for one more year.
Yeah, I've got
with the Sixers, of course.
Got a few debts to pay off. So, but yeah, I'm going to wind the calves up. I'm a little bit overweight, so I'm working in.
I didn't want to say anything.
Working in grand finals, rugby league grand finals. I'm at 1993 at the moment, so 93 kgs.
Okay.
So it's a really unhealthy BMI. So I've got to get that down, but. Yeah,
well, they're
slowly.
pretty stringent fitness tests at the Sixers.
I run off 2 steps and stand at short third man. It's a little bit different. You've got the young and the old here. You know, you've got I shouldn't be, influencing these young cricket superstars.
Yeah, you should be influencing Phoebe well.
Yes, should be eating well, looking after the nutritionists.
Of course.
So you can get to 38 and eat what you want, like me and Manners.
Well, yeah, I don't have to play sports, so I can eat what I want. Your coach, Greg Shippard, when he re-signed you for this summer, he said that you and Rashid Khan were the leading spinners by a mile in the BBL last year. I mean that's pretty good for a 37-year-old.
Yeah, I think he's pumping me up there. Greg, my contract certainly doesn't reflect being the second best spinner in the comp. I can tell you that when you try and negotiate with Greg. But it's flattering. I think the reason that I go around again and playing is because of Greg. There's some really good leaders there in Greg and Moses, and I consider Greg not only a great mentor on the field but off the field. So I speak to him pretty regularly about cricket, life. So it's really nice to hear those. Well, I've got still at 38 and got a lot to learn, but he's got a lot of experience in many areas, and I think. It's important. I mean, coaches, I guess you don't have to like your coach, but it's important that they make an effort to like you or get to know you. And he does make that effort on and off the field, make sure he checks in. So for me, I think cricket has, that flame sort of burnt out, or I feel a bit burnt out, but the main driving force is being able to play, with my mates, which have got a few in the team and playing under Greg. So they're the main drivers for me going back again for one more season.
Excellent. What about you, Phoebe? Do you have like a mentor or someone you sort of speak to about life advice?
I can't say I probably found that person in cricket yet. I've got like heaps of great older teammates, like Lauren Cheadle and Sammy Jo Johnson and the Aussie girls to chat to. But I think that, connection and the trust probably comes down to my family first. Like my dad's been my coach for a while. Well, all my life pretty much, and he's probably the one I go to. But, there's heaps of girls. And they've gone through what I haven't gone through, so I think that's probably why they're...
Yeah, I mean, going into that breaker side, there's so many champion players there. You've got a lot of people who you can learn off just by being around.
Yeah, just picking up little things. Yeah, good.
Excellent. All right, well, for this episode of Cricket Unfiltered, we're going to cover all the cricket headlines, and then to wrap it up, we'll have a little bit of a chat. I'll put you both on the hot seat and throw a few questions at you, but let's get into the cricket headlines. I mean, the first headline, the Australian women's team has won the first ever cricket gold medal in the Commonwealth Games. Right. So good. They beat India by 9 runs. India were 2 for 118, chasing 162 for the win before an epic collapse. Ash Gardner 3 for 16 and Megan Shute 2 for 27. Phoebe, did you watch much of the final?
I woke up. I set an alarm for 2. Woke up. We were batting, so I watched probably the first maybe 2 overs and then fell asleep. Not as in boredom or but I just couldn't keep my eyes open. Because I also watched the hockey final that was at 12 and tried to go to sleep for like an hour and then we just gave up. But woke up and watched the highlights and was pretty happy.
What did you think of their performance?
I think they always just come in clutch. I think like India have been the team that's sort of, they seem to just, sometimes they look like they're about to choke, but they just always come through. Like the first round game against India, I think they were 4 or 5 for not many, and they found a way to win. But yeah, they find a way to win.
Yeah, I think
as simple as that.
Well, both ways. Like the Indian side haven't quite cracked how to win those big games yet.
Yeah.
They lose the 2017 50-over World Cup final, lose the 2020 T20 final. They lose this one. They just haven't quite got that little bit to get them over the line yet.
They get there and they play really well through the the group stages, but yeah, the big match they sort of crumble a bit.
What I don't understand is they always say that if India wins this, it'll be huge for women's cricket in India. But like they've made 3 finals, they've got a silver medal. Like, isn't that enough?
Yeah, like I think it's good, but I feel like I think that's what they're saying is that they've made it so many times to like the icing on the cake would be to actually win it and I think be the best side in the world. I think that's probably the thing that they're chasing.
And probably the Indian public as well.
I think
if they
so.
saw that would go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the world, I mean, you look at it with the men's comp. I mean, when it gets a bit lopsided, which it sort of feels at the moment, that Australia dominates, their test performances, the one-day performances, the T20 arena. Everyone loves an underdog story or to someone to come in and knock them off their perch. India seems to get, as you quite rightly said, close, but in those big games, it's completely different to what you normally play. And under pressure, the Aussies have been there and experienced it. There's so many good, calm heads and amazing cricketers in that side. So it doesn't surprise me that Australia keep winning those big matches. Under Matthew Mott, they developed a recipe for success, and they're continuing it now. And it almost, it's going to take a team to take another big step forward to even get close. Because you think the Australian team now has built up that dominance. They're bringing in good young players. The woman sitting next to me won't be long before she's in there. You come into a successful team, you learn how to win, and then you maintain it. So I'm really proud of the Aussie women, and they're setting the benchmark, not in cricket but in world sport. So
also in Australian sport about how a national team should conduct itself, how they should make the country proud. They just get everything right. In the tournament, the Australian leading run scorer was Beth Mooney, 179 runs. It's been said a lot recently that she seems to fly under the radar, Moons, but incredible player.
Yeah, it's weird. You don't see her as like, the top 3. You sort of look at Perry, Healy.
Lanning.
Yeah, Lanning. Of course.
You better say the captain.
No, of course.
you go through and name that whole team.
Everyone but that. But I feel like she's just so consistent. She might not clear the boundary. Well, she still clears the boundary, but she might not have that fireworks, but she chips away and she scores.
Yeah, she hits so well 360. Can pick the ball up over mid-wicket, can hit the ball through covers and hits to those areas where it's pretty obvious. Can hit to areas where they don't have deep fielders out. Yeah. And it is an art form to be able to hit sweepers, to be able to attack gaps over the top to hit boundaries. And you watch her, it's really calculated every time she takes, we call them risks. Kind of think of Josh Philippi when he takes the new ball on and hits over the top. He makes it look so easy, taking those risks over the infielders, and it's sort of like watching Beth Mooney do the same thing. You watch them because it's such a natural stroke. You think they're just not even taking a risk, but it's such a hard shot to play and to do it consistently, as you said. But I think it stems from her character, doesn't it? She's not very much outlandish. She just goes under the radar, and one of those person you'd love always having in your team because, probably has a good day or bad day, you wouldn't know the difference, and that's just from the outside looking in. So, but that you'd say right across the board without knowing them too well personally, that's how they all seem, very humble and appreciative of where they are, and that's resonating with gold medals, which we love.
Yeah.
Gold medals.
Commonwealth gold. It's raining.
Yeah.
Second leading run scorer was Talia McGrath's, just putting together a wonderful year.
She's just she's next level, isn't she? I mean, for a girl, when she debuted for Australia, was it 12 months ago?
No, I think she debuted like 3 or 4 years ago and then was in and out and then it's just come in and gone.
Boom.
Yeah.
Phoebe, when you see a player like that, fairly young, I don't know how old Talia is, but when you see her sort of make those steps at international cricket, do you sort of think, okay, gives you a bit of, I don't know, a bit of hope, or just gives you something to, aspire to in a way?
Yeah, for sure. And to see her, doing well is so exciting. And I think it shows what hard work can do, I think. Having that chance, like being in the side and then being in and out, she's really put in the work, and it probably shows. And she's playing so freely now. Yeah, she comes to the crease and you rarely see her at, she's not on knees, or she doesn't really hesitate. She's just stroking the ball, and it just looks, confidence.
And does it sort of, put a bit of a fire in your belly, like fuck, I want to be there now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
No,
you can swear. By the
no,
way.
Who wouldn't want to be there for a gold medal? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think that's in everyone's mind when you're there or thereabouts. But yeah, it's cool.
Great. The leading wicket takers for Australia, Megan Shute, 8 wickets, always there or thereabouts. Talia McGrath, 8 wickets. What a great tournament she had. Jess Jonathan with 7 wickets. So just, outstanding tournament. I love the Commonwealth Games cricket. It reminded me, do you remember when the Aussie boys lost in 1998? How old were you?
No. I can't remember. I don't remember them being in it, so there you go.
Older.
I should know. I would have been in year 8. I would have been old enough, but I just wasn't paying any attention.
Yeah, I was like 22. So.
Yeah. So they lost, did they?
They lost the final to South Africa.
Okay.
And Sean Pollock, and I remember watching it.
Was it a one-day T20s? What was it?
50 over.
50 over.
Yeah, T20s went around then in 1998.
Yeah, right. Thanks for the lesson, Menace.
That's okay. Anything else?
There's a lot, actually. How long we got?
Can you give me a lesson then, both of you? 2 professional, one professional cricketer, 1 semi-professional. Well,
today's a bit harsh calling Phoebe semi-professional.
What are these high...
I don't know if I think I'm still semi-professional. I don't know if we're fully professional yet.
What do you mean?
As in, like, time-wise.
What?
But you got a year contract.
You signed a contract
I know,
for 12
but it's
months.
like,
that's professional. Like Sock's contract
you could
December 1st.
Yeah, but we don't like work from 9 to 5.
Yeah, but no professional athlete does.
Oh, okay.
That's the beauty of being a professional athlete. You get to bludge half the time.
Yeah.
And then when you do really well, you get to bludge even more.
When this is finished, Stephen O'Keefe's going to tell you how to put your bets on.
Can I just rectify? You are paid to play cricket. You're a professional athlete. That's in definition. That's right.
You should be this now. Like you should be putting your bets on now for the doggies or the races. Like Sock will show you afterwards how to do it. And watching the races like when we were commentating last summer. I've got you. I'll grab the phone if you put on.
Phone is off.
You can check your TAB account after we stop recording. But I was going to ask you, what about these hybrid pitches? I'd never heard of these. Have you heard of them? Okay.
See, I didn't. They kept on chucking the word out in the commentary, and I was like, "What hybrid pitch?" And they look like.
So they're like half grass, half
synthetic.
Synthetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not like I thought maybe like the middle would be turf and then the run-ups might be more synthetic to keep them together.
They've grown the turf in the synthetic grass or put the synthetic grass in the turf. I don't know which way they do it.
Well, anyway, it's incredible. I think it's something to look out for because...
I think more cricket, particularly over there in the UK, should be... I mean, if it looked and played as well as what it has and still produced good scores, then they should play more cricket on them.
And what about for grade cricket in Australia? There's so many shit pitches, local council pitches.
Yeah.
If you get hybrid stuff that holds together better, then you'll get better cricket.
Makes it. I mean, you look at say Manly Oval. We're going on a tangent here, but you got rugby there, and they quite rightly have the same. Well, everyone should be able to use it 12 months around. But you rip the square up, and you got a square that's 8 pitches long, and then it takes. Gene Namu, who's a former footballer, played for the Warriors and for New Zealand. He's the greenskeeper out there, but he's the challenge is always getting it up and then also getting it back down for the rugby union players because they're diving into that hard square and it makes it thing. So the argument's always there or the conversation around drop-in pitches, but if there's a hybrid format and you're able to rely on it and get on, there's nothing more frustrating than sitting around waiting all day for a game of cricket. So if you've got something that's ready to go that's not too affected by the weather, more of it.
Yeah, I can't go to the Swans games because I get so upset when they're churning up the pitch in the middle.
I love that. Well, I used to anyway because it means you'd get a dog. Yeah,
you get a bowler's friendly pitch.
Breakfast to play on. Yeah.
All right, so that was the Commonwealth Games. Next headline, and I'm hoping for a few insights here from Sock. It's cricketer wedding season.
It is, yeah.
So I believe, was it Nathan Lyon got married to Emma?
I've got Nathan Lyon, Sean Abbott married to Briere.
Pat Cummins,
Josh Hazelwood all got
Josh Hazel got married too.
Josh Hazelwood was the week after Paddy,
Wow.
I think. Yeah, so I think it makes sense, doesn't it, with their
So
busy
three
calendar.
of the 4 bowlers got married.
The cartel.
The cartel.
I hope it does better for them than it did for Finch's batting.
Well, I mean, they're your words, not mine. But
That's
he's
right.
he's actually doing okay, isn't he, Finchy, at the moment?
I know,
you
he's
reckon
coming
come
good
back?
now. So did you go to any of the weddings?
No, I would say those guys are my friends, but I'm not real close mates with them. So I wish them all. I got to see them all before their big day. Sean's wedding, Abbott's, is a closer friend, but he only had family there, so I think it was only about 20 people. But the other guys, I think, went to the Hunter. Josh's, I think, was in the Hunter Valley, and Pat's might have been up at Byron.
Pat's was probably in some like palace somewhere.
Well, you'd think that, but-
gold, gold,
Yeah, I
everything
feel
was
like
gold.
It's not that though.
That's not. Yeah, Pat's
it's
a
not-
very, I think, unassuming.
Solar panels, of
cricketing,
course,
yeah.
on top.
Well, that's
solar
right.
panels, of
yeah,
course.
yeah. You had to stomp your own grapes.
Yeah.
Sit on a bike if you wanted to turn the light on at night and sort of, fuel it by electricity.
Pedal your way there.
Pedal your way there. Zero emissions, but great to see.
Net zero
Isn't it
carbon.
nice to see with all those guys, finding love off the field and having good balance? And I think having good balance in your life, plays out well when you're playing cricket. And all three, you'd argue Sean Abbott as well, all 4 seem to be in a great place off the pitch and are doing so well on it. So good on you, boys. Well done.
Yeah, so Cummins obviously,
And ladies.
he and his now wife Becky, they're
Becky,
very
yeah.
prevalent on social media.
Yep.
And then you've got Nathan and Emma. But Hazelwood's not on any social media at all. Like, he just goes, he's a real country boy. Like, there's nothing around about Hazelwood.
Yeah, you got your Instas and your TikToks and all that?
Got me Insta. I don't use the TikTok too much.
Yeah,
I
but
probably
you
use
get
it for,
on Stella and Maitland's a few times,
Yes,
is
that
it?
is true. I do a few cameos, but I use
I've
it
seen
more
you
just for
dancing.
my entertainment, just scrolling and laughing at a few videos.
Yeah, I
but-
think it. I mean, I'm off. I haven't posted in about 3 or 4 years on Insta, so I'm off.
You've
it.
been banned, that's why.
Well, probably. I haven't checked. Maybe I have been, but I found personally, I found it, and same with Facebook Blue. So I've got Facebook Messenger, and I find it quite endearing that Josh isn't on it. Lets his cricket do the talking, and he's got his mates in his close circle of friends that he relies and trusts upon, and that's
boy
his,
from Bendemeer.
that's life. But then I don't begrudge anyone these days who, you can watch certain players or in both codes who try and sell themselves or portray an image on there who are trying to make a dollar or, create a bit of a fan base which they can then move to market themselves. So I don't begrudge players who do it. Personally, I just found when I was on it and had Twitter, I couldn't deal with the anxiety of what people would, or the bad, you get 10 good messages, but you get one bad one, and the bad one would always seem to,
Well, that's
you
not
more.
just in cricketers. I interview podcasters, and it's like you can get 50 good reviews, and there'll be one bad one, and it just
That's
stays in your head.
Natural way of
So
thinking.
with the wedding, so I don't know if you saw Daily Mail, great publication, high class. They had a story going of, David Warner not invited to Pat Cummins' wedding, and it had a photo of Davey Warner and his wife Candice at the supermarket about the same time as the wedding, right? So it's a shit story. But then I'm thinking, if you're getting married, that would be super complicated with like cricket team politics. Like, who do you invite from
you been
your
to any wedding? You're
None of my teammates.
no, you're yeah, well, you're.
but
All my
you're-
teammates
you're
are like
18.
20.
You've probably been to yeah.
They're
Like,
all
imagine
quite
it's
young.
really complicated. Like, do I invite the whole team? Do I invite just a few players?
Oh, well,
or if I
that-
don't invite the captain, will I get dropped?
That's you think about it, right? Which is a good point to have because you get to that. Well, hopefully, I'll get to that stage.
But you'd be retired. Like, it won't
Yeah,
matter.
that's great.
Just
Then
be
I-
you.
then I
Greg
don't- then
Shippett
you
will
don't
give you
have to-
away.
I'll just
Greg
have to
Shippett
have-
will walk you up the aisle.
Yeah, well, look, I'd be more than happy. My dad may not be, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because you can read into it all you like. But like with cricket teams, right? Like you play on the field, you go out there, and you're all out there. Once you go across that white line, you're together, and you after one goal, that's winning a game. But you can't manufacture relationships. So even though you spend so much time together, doesn't necessarily mean that you're all going to like each other. It's great if you do. It helps if you do because, you know people intimately and you want to go to their winnings, you want to see them do well. But there's people that you play with that you're just not going to get along with. Like it's a cross-section of society. And
Are you saying Warner and
No,
how you
not
don't
at
get
all.
along,
I'm just
or-
saying that you can't manufacture relationships.
And it's
I'm
like
sure
any
they're-
work relationship.
Yeah.
Like you can work professionally
Yeah.
with someone, but it doesn't mean you're going to ask them to your wedding.
No, well, I mean, it's like where does it stop? You know, you start there in one, and then you go down the pecking order, and you've got, as you said, you've got the whole 25 listed Australian
Yeah.
players plus the
They just-
25 New South Wales squad members plus all the assistant coach. Like,
Yeah.
where do you
Exactly.
draw
That's
the
what I'm saying.
line
Where
of the
do- what does
assistant
Cummins
coach or the
do?
trainer? So, yeah, I think there's nothing wrong, and it's same deal. I'm sure Davey would have been the first to say congratulations. You know, and I don't see any bad blood there. I just, you've probably only got so many seats, don't you? You can't-
As I say, I just can imagine it.
don't
would
need
be-
any more CO2 emissions at a Pat Cummins. Maybe it was
Yeah,
emissions
it's like, oh
quota.
look, we've hit our green
Yeah.
cap,
Green cap,
our
yeah.
emissions limit. Any weddings in the off season for you,
No.
your teammates? No,
No, we just covered
Maitland
that,
Brown
20.
She's
just got engaged.
She
Great
was
guest.
engaged, but she's probably the oldest of us. We've got a very young side, so
Yeah, no rush into that.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah. What about how we've
time.
just stooped to Daily Mail level
Well,
chat here,
I just
you know?
it was a shithouse story,
What's
and I
new
thought I
on
had
maths?
to like,
The maths
Stirring.
coverage.
yeah. Warner and Cummins at odds over wedding snub.
I'd highly, not that I know because I can't speak for them, but I will say that I don't see that there's, well, that is a typical Daily Mail dross article.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wonder if Smudge was at the wedding.
Oh, well, the Daily Mail, read the next fight, tune in next week to the Daily Mail.
Cummins, vice captain. I saw Smudge over in New York, though, riding a bike, so...
Maybe he was over there, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next headline. 15 Aussies have been approached by the UAE T20 League. So what did you say to when they approached you, Socky?
I said, look, if you look, I said, firstly, if Dave Warner's getting 700, then I should be getting 1.1
Of course.
a year.
Yeah, of course.
No, I think what you'll find in a lot of those sub or Asian teams is most of the guys playing in their fourth grade sides over there can bowl spin better than what most Australians can. So unfortunately,
you're
it's
selling
never-
yourself short. 300 wickets and under 25.
Yeah,
First-class cricket.
but yeah, I think you need to be a well-rounded player unless you're an exceptional batter like Phoebe. You need to be sort of three-dimensional, and unfortunately, as you get a bit older, I'm certainly just one-dimensional now with bowling. So you need to be able to adding value in those. You have a look at the teams like the IPL.
So they didn't approach you.
No,
We
so
know. I
cut a
get it.
short answer
I knew
low,
they
but you
didn't.
need to be the three. You need to be you need to be exceptional batter.
I was
or
looking at the marquee
two out
players
of
list
three.
and thinking, okay, I don't think.
Who's on there? Give
Okay,
us
so
give us a rundown.
Andre Russell, Moeen Ali, Colin Munro, Tom Curran, your teammate, isn't he, at the
he's a
Sixers?
good player, good batter.
Not sure if
and
he's
bowling
coming out
fielder.
here because he'll be heading off to the UAE. Chris Lynn's going to go. So I guess the big issue is now this UAE league could start to pull out a lot of talent from the Big Bash, not just Australian talent but overseas talent. What's your feeling, Sok?
I am a little bit. What I don't want to see is, I guess, the Big Bash drop in quality. I guess I don't want it to be, to use an analogy like the A-League is to soccer in the world. I don't want us to be producing young players and then sending them off to Europe. I don't want to be producing good Australian players and then sending them off to the UAE. So I think Cricket Australia has to act pretty quickly. They've tried to do it with this platinum player model and gold model. I mean, the standalone with the WBBL is fantastic for women's cricket, so it's creating its own identity and probably is the top T20 league in the world. So they've got it nailed with the women's format. But the male format, I mean, all right, so if you're Dave Warner, you're 35, you're at the back end of your career, the most you're going to get in a Big Bash team's $200,000-300,000 maybe. He can get $700,000 a year. I know where I'd be going. You'd ask for that
half the time.
You'd ask for that NOC. You go and you go. Now it's not something personally I would do because I'd still have aspirations to play with my baggy green. But let's just take a young cricketer, for example. Let's use, I don't know, pick a 20-year-old Manly, Jack Edwards, Ollie Davies, right? So you pick those kids and you go, right, do you want to stay and play at New South Wales for your 70 or 80 grand contract? Or let's say that you have a blinder of a BBL and now all these T20 leagues want to pick you up. So, okay, UAE's throwing $500,000 at you now, Jack, to go over and play for the Kolkata Knight Riders team in the UAE, but you're also going to play in the IPL and we're going to bandy you around as a player. So CA have captured lightning in a bottle with the Big Bash. It's now evolved, so now they have to evolve with it. Otherwise, you'll slowly see it taper off. They thought they could just keep selling games and people keep turning up. That's not the case. So I think they need to start reacting, and I think the way they do that, to answer that in a short way, is by privatising. My personal opinion is you privatise it. You have access to these other IPL stakeholder or teams, and then you can sit at the table with these teams and organise so you're not standing in the road of each other, and they can all run and have that synergy. Otherwise, I don't know. If it was a Phoebe Litchfield and I said, right, here's $500,000, we want you to just play in T20 tournaments all around the world, you'd go, well, do I want to play for Australia or do I take the low-hanging fruit? And that's only a question that you could answer. Well, there we can ask Phoebe, can't we? Phoebe, if you were offered $500,000 and to go around and play T20 cricket or $1 million a year, but you had to forego playing for Australia. Now, choose your words carefully here because...
No, I know. It's on camera. No. I think your point's right, though. Like, there's so many T20 comps popping up everywhere and they're overlapping each other. So, it's... And who's the guy who's going really well?
Chris Lynn?
No, the young bloke.
Tim David?
Yeah, he's going amazingly by just...
Playing T20 cricket. He's going to make a fortune.
Green.
Yep.
As in just travelling the world playing T20 competitions.
Yep.
But personally, I would stay for Australia. Just because I think
play
I'm...
for Australia?
No, not at all.
You
God.
will, yeah.
But I just find it crazy that I'm paid to be a cricketer, full stop. The fact that I don't have to work in a job where I'm, serving plates. Like some of my friends at college, they're going to work, at night and you're like, oh, bye. They're like, oh, I've got a 6-hour shift. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I'm just lucky enough to play cricket. So I think
that's a great attitude.
And I think if I was exposed to different amounts of money that the men might be, I'd probably, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. And you can see and I'm young and probably naive and I probably don't know how the world works, but you probably need more money to live. But yeah, I think that's probably my decision.
Good on you, Phoebe.
Good answer.
Thanks, guys.
Good answer. Todd Greenberg, head of the ACA, was on Pete Lawler and Gideon Hayes' podcast this week, and he said that he feels like the men's players understand the responsibility that they have with the Big Bash. With the MOU negotiations coming up between CA and the players soon. Todd Greenberg seemed to indicate that the players know that if they all just jump ship and take the cash, the short-term payout, in the long run it could affect not just their pay packet but many generations of cricketers to come. So I think we're seeing a really interesting time of history where, and you'd know this because you were playing, when T20 came on the scene, everyone was like, it's going to change cricket and it's going to really sort of destroy Test cricket and stuff. Well, it hasn't happened, but now we're at a point where there's enough of a draw that, there'll be a lot of players who might go, I'm just going to play white ball cricket, guaranteed pay packet. Test cricket, might not happen for me, so why put all that commitment in? And we'll see sort of real split in cricketers.
I think you've nailed it. And I think Todd's point is right. I think most people want to see the Big Bash do well domestically and we'll try and protect it and do well. But also you are going to have these questions for younger players who are coming in who haven't been a part of MOUs, who may not have even played for their state yet, being offered an opportunity to go and play. And can I begrudge that player and tell him, no, you've got to stay and play in the Big Bash, make this product better, by denying them an opportunity to go play in 3 or 4 other ones and make more? So I'm just saying it's questions out there that ACA and CA, I think CA's answered it this year. They're trying to promote these platinum and gold players and pay more for these overseas stars, or even get them for a small section of the tournament, even if it's 10 games per se, which I think is a good thing. I'm a fan of paying the best players in the world more to get them out here to protect the product. So I've got no issue if you had to pay AB de Villiers 3 times.
What about then the reports that there's a feeling, and this is coming from the Sydney Morning Herald, that some BBL players are upset that maybe, some international players that aren't the cream of the crop are getting big dollars, and there's players, Australian players, who've been slugging away in the Big Bash and are the stars who aren't getting that?
I think it just goes down to performance. I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but
that's a valid point that you make, Phoebe. Is that I think that's strikes at the heart of that. Is like, okay, are we going to go and chase a 30th ranked player in the world, T20 cricket, to come over and pay them say 340 grand, and then we're going to pay the same quality all rounder
Or an
in
aging
Australia.
left arm tweaker who's won 3 titles.
Pay for my tolls, you know. Just
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
my head above water.
Does it
that's
cost
what-
you to get to the
Yeah,
games?
actually,
or-
it's costing me per year to play. But yeah, I can understand that point as well. So yeah, again, if you CA, it's their privilege to pick who they want to be platinum. So they get to choose who's platinum and who's not. And generally they would be your Andre Russells, your Faf du Plessis,
Your Phoebe Litchfields.
your Phoebe Litchfields, that's right, who sit in that sort of top echelon. So again, it's if CA are having this conversation and BBL players are doing that with the ACA, then I'm sure there can be some sort of agreement.
It feels like, and as a spectator, I'd be interested in your view of this, Phoebe. It feels like shortening the men's BBL to about 10 rounds will solve a lot of problems. All of a sudden, they can squeeze it in the calendar, they can attract more players, and, you know, TV ratings and stuff will probably be stronger with slightly less games. What do you think, Phoebe?
Well, we had this conversation with the women's stuff too, because we're sort of seeing the rise of the 100, and it's probably only 4 weeks. And the Big Bash is probably 2 weeks more than that. And we've had some good players, international players, saying no to the Big Bash because it's just now that women's cricket's going up, the year for some international cricketers is pretty busy, like the men. So they're saying no to coming out to Australia, so it, degrades the quality,
The
which happens
WBBL.
in the
Wow.
men's.
So I hadn't heard of that with the WBBL.
It's not like a massive issue because it's still the best.
The name names. Which female players have said it's
I'll
too
stop.
long?
Anyway, but then domestically, we want to play for as long as possible.
Yeah, more
So,
games.
boys men that are playing their first or second season of Big Bash, they don't want to be because we train ages for 6 months of cricket. 6 weeks of cricket. And if that's down to 4 weeks, it's the highlight of my year is Big Bash. So if it's only a month of
But I think for the men it's different because there's not as much there's more other cricket for the men's the Shield, 50 over stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that even it's too long for some women's playing, but 14 games is a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's about right for the female. I think once you start playing more as well, once you start playing more red ball games, so Test cricket, which would be great to see. That Test against England was probably one of the best games of cricket you would have seen all year. Some amazing fielding, some great regard batting, and just a great contest in the end. So more of that, and I think maybe what you might see is if there is more of that, then you'll say, "Oh, geez, now we've got the one-day season or the domestic season going this long plus Big Bash. Now we've got 3 tests in the Australian summer. It might get a bit, but at the moment, I think the more they're playing and the more WBBL games, the better." I'd say if you could push it past 14,
28.
We'll play for another month, and it's a bit like AFL. I don't think you're going to lose fans.
It's just that balance between profitable or games for us.
Yeah, we'll leave that to other people who are smarter.
But I think shortening the
men's
men's one would solve a few problems.
It would, but you're not going to get it from the media. The media.
No, but in 2 years, when this deal's up, maybe they can.
Okay, well, let's sit here in the
Quality over
hypothetical
quantity.
room. Here we are, and with all of us in
2
the
years
hypothetical
into the
cone.
future.
So do you think maybe you could bring in 2 more teams? So then you'd go to 10 teams. You could bring in a New Zealand team, or maybe an Asian team, or Southeast Asia, somewhere around there. Have 10 teams, and then you're literally just playing 1 game each, and then you're bringing in different markets.
It's interesting.
The rugby's had the Super Rugby, which had South Africa and went across. It's going to be hard now because South Africa's got their own league. The UAE is going to have their own league. So bringing more is going to be really, really hard. Probably not possible to do. But how do you get it back to 10 or 12 when the media rights of the more games, the more content, the more ads?
Yeah.
It's just not.
Or
I just don't see it
shortening the
viable.
teams, as in there's 2 Sydney teams, there's 2 Melbourne teams.
One
If you just
each did the state, so go back
do
to
the
state based.
No.
Yeah, I think Greg Shippard
No.
was a fan of that. So he said, not only then do you strengthen the teams, so as Phoebe's saying, so you condense it, you got a stronger
there's-
pool, and then you can just play
Better quality.
twice. Yeah, so you got 6v2 like you're doing any other one. Which to me, I'd be open to that.
There's no way they're going to get rid of the Sixers, the Thunder, the Stars, and the Renegade.
Well, no, you combine them into one. They did it with the rugby league and had mergers and clubs.
Half pink, half green top for the
Ew.
Sydney
Yeah.
Tigers.
It looks so
But
bad.
think about state-based rivalries, and you talk about packing out stadiums. If you had, and then you can create context around games.
And State of Origin sort of vibes.
Yeah. So
I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea. I was with that in the beginning when they brought in the Sixers. I was like, why are we bringing the Sixers and the Thunder when we've got New South Wales Blues, the greatest provincial cricket team in the world?
The BBL before the BBL was still a good was a good product.
Absolutely.
But
I just think to keep the teams with less games because if you go more teams, you dilute the talent even more.
Yeah.
And if you can't go back. I mean, the good thing now is like if you're out west in Sydney, the Thunder is your team. You know, and I don't know about the Renegades. I think the Renegades maybe struggling for identity, but it feels like the Thunder's got something.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the IPL's the yardstick, isn't it? You know, watch them; they're expanding. They're going to be at 10 teams. You know, so
they've got like $50 billion. Each game is worth like $20 million US.
So this is my point. If you go to the private ownership and you say you've got a coal cutter that links itself with the BBL team or another team in the comp, and then you have that, as I said, you've got their influence on. So you can, imagine down the line in 10 years' time if you had access to some Indian players playing and coming off the back end of their careers, and you're say falling under the
Virat Kohli
Kolkata Knight Riders cap, and you're bought by them, but you have to play 3 games in the Australian market. You have to play 3 games in the UAE. Okay, we're starting one in the US. We want to,
I love it.
You're Davey Warner, your whole boy, but
that's going to happen.
We need you for 3 games over Christmas in the US to promote the Big Bash over there,
and then
they bandy you around, but they fit you in, Yeah,
and then the player's going to have to put an NOC certificate to the owners of his club to see if he can go and play for his country.
Well,
then the tables would turn.
Well, it took a lot of great thinking, as you said, to get the Sydney Sixers and the Thunder off the ground. It took a lot of you had to really think outside the square. As you said, it was polarising. Did you like it or not? And it's been a great success. But we've moved on to what BBL 12 and 13. The best we can come up with now is zinger bales and some, X Factor and Power Surge, which is like it's gimmick. You just don't ever want to devalue the fan. And the fan at the moment is losing context. Everyone you speak to, the game's too long. Is it still going? I'm not sure what's going on. It's the same sort of feedback you get. And I want to pump up Big Bash because I want it to be the best T20 tournament in the world. And at its best, it is. So I just think
at its best, it's probably not.
You don't reckon it is?
I think the IPL is probably at its best. IPL is the best by a long way.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I love the Big Bash. I love what you've done as well. Love, big fan. 3 titles. Phoebe, got a question for you.
Devaluing us here. Phoebe, don't take it.
I spent years on this podcast saying why weren't you picked in Australia?
Thank you, mate.
Hours of audio. Now I've met you, I know why. So, Phoebe, question. Would you play cricket on Christmas Day? Say, marquee game, New South Wales v Victoria or the Thunder v the Sixers on Christmas Day. How good would that be? A huge TV audience,
What time of day is it though?
Well, say afternoon. I think that the talk around it is twilight because what Australian cricket has done is they've given basketball a free pass. They've said, we're going to own summers except Christmas Day, and now the National Basketball League has put a game on Christmas Day. It should be, Sox starring in Christmas Day cricket, beating the Thunder or something like that. Would you like to play on Christmas Day?
I don't know. Personally, no, just because I love Christmas. It's the time when your whole family gets together. And I don't think I've ever watched sport on Christmas Day.
That's because there's never been anything to watch.
Is there not ever?
No,
okay.
you'll be watching the NBL. You watch about the turkey will be finished. Everyone will be just snoozing, and someone will put on the National Basketball League, and you've never watched a game before, but you'll all watch it because it'll be the only sporting event on. That could be the Big Bash. Why aren't you playing on Christmas Day?
Well, it's not.
The players are rat bags about this.
My personal opinion is that yes, we should play. And I think the way that you'd do it is you'd have the 2 derbies. So you'd have the Melbourne.
Just alternate
You'd have the Melbourne. Well, no, you could play the 2 games on the same day.
Wow, I like it.
You'd have the Melbourne derby in the morning. So you play that game from 10 till 2.
Well, now we're thinking.
So then they would have their Christmas still.
I love this.
They'd still have their Christmas in the evening, so they could celebrate their Christmas in the evening.
So good.
And then the Sydney derby would go in the evening. So you'd have the game in the morning, game in the evening on Christmas Day.
I love
in the background.
It's perfect.
that's my personal opinion. I would
Yes.
have no problem with it. I could still spend time with your family, whether it be morning or evening and alternating. You do the derby so families don't have to travel too far.
Have a big lunch at the ground. How good would that be on Christmas
I
Day?
don't know.
The MCG or the SCG?
I got no problem with it. But as Phoebe said, to my girlfriend as well, Christmas is everything. Like we're planning already for Christmas and it's doing my head in. But we're buying Christmas trees and talking about what we're
I
doing
bet
for
you
Christmas.
wish
and
you
it's
were playing on
August.
Christmas Day. I
And
bet
Phoebe
you wish you were.
probably enjoys her family time. So I'd understand players who might object to it for all sorts of reasons.
But then again, like providing that to families, like it goes, you want to be able to provide cricket for that day, and like if that's something that families love, you sort of want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
But it's just hard because like
Imagine you say if you were a fan and you say it was out at a showground and you finished your breakfast with your family, your lunch, and you go, righto guys, we're all going out, we've bought 10 tickets. And you'd go out at 2:00 and you'd go out and watch it as a family Christmas afternoon, as a present, as a family. You'd go in and buy these.
I love going to the movies on Christmas
Member
Day.
packets,
who wants to
yeah.
be-
Really?
Yes.
what?
I'm not a big Christmas Day
You're the
person.
Grinch.
What?
Are you the Grinch?
I love cricket on Christmas Day. It's my dream. But I'd actually thought Sydney-Melbourne derbies and you just alternate each year. So, but I like where you're going. Double header, maybe triple header with Perth and Adelaide to finish it off.
Oh,
Love it.
Heard it here first.
Speaking of the Big Bash, they've announced the fixtures. I was pretty excited to see your Sydney Sixers playing at North Sydney Oval.
It's gonna be
I'm really
dangerous.
excited.
Oh, that's
about
not good for you, mate. There'll be a few balls flying.
I'm already injured there.
Yeah.
Well, that ground's too small.
The calf's gone
So
again.
That ground's too small for Phoebe. Let
No,
alone me
please.
trying to-
Imagine Moses Enriquez. He literally would just have to tap the ball and go for
How do you find playing it there? As in, is it a good sized ground? Do you think? As in, it's good even contest between bat and ball there. 'Cause a lot of the
I think it's perfect for
WB
females.
Yeah.
As in, like you want sixes to be hit, you want fours to be hit, and it makes more runs to be scored. So I think it's a really good size for female cricket.
Yeah.
But probably too small for men.
Wow, I disagree. I think it's
Really?
great as a spectator. I mean,
Well,
I
obviously
guess-
not being a spin bowler, it's fun, but
I guess people love sixes being hit, but it's like, when does that become?
yeah, you couldn't play every game there.
Yeah.
As like the men's
No, of course
BBL,
not.
but I used to love the old 50 over games there, the Mercantile Mutual Cup they'd play there.
Yeah, they've played a bit of one day cricket, and I think you're right. The women's game there,
Yeah.
it looks like a good even contest.
Yeah, it is good.
Did you play in the game at North Sydney where Glenn Maxwell scored like 270 odd on a road?
Shield game.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, see, I feel like that, it's way too small for men because I feel like to clear the boundary, you have to hit it well, and they mishit it and it goes for six. So it's like,
Thank you, Phoebe.
But I noticed with the men's
But
Big
you were
Bash,
meant to big it up. Yay,
they've
North
got-
Sydney. Whoa.
Okay, sorry, I'll take that back.
no, well, I guess, one off maybe, it'd be cool. You
You'd
get a
like-
big crowd there.
Yeah,
Bring your helmet.
There was with the men's Big Bash. They've gone back to more like just a conventional. None of these like weird start times. Just start at 7 p.m. every night with a few earlier games, which I think is much better.
Makes sense. So let's say we're trying to hit families and you turn up and you're at 7 o'clock to a Big Bash game, which they say goes for 3 hours, but ends up going for 3.5 hours because you've got stoppages. They're going to bring in the referral
Fireworks,
system.
the music.
Fireworks and the delays and the whatever. You get your child in there at 6 to go and watch the warm-up and then they don't get home till 11:30 and it's just too long.
Can't take a kid.
So, you've got to hit that sweet spot at, say, 6 or 5 so you can get them in the afternoon and get them out at a reasonable time. So
Get them to bed
that's
before
right.
school.
That's right. Well, it's school holidays. So again, if you want to condense the tournament, you try and hit the school holidays, start it an hour earlier so you can get families in and out. You get good spectators on at the ground. You'll get more people. It's shown that you get more people in school holidays. And when you're watching it, it doesn't look like you're playing in front of an empty stadium. You're playing in front of a full one because it is. So
And for a player as well, probably easier just to get into a routine if you're playing roughly the same time rather than 7 one night, then we're flying over here and it's a 9 o'clock start.
what's it with the WBBL? Have you got you play all throughout the day as well, don't you? You got day games?
Yeah, mostly day games. But we've got I think three night games this season. But
I was looking at the WBBL schedule and they've sort of gone, which they've done before, but kind of more like carnivals where you're not going to be playing home and away, but you're playing at venues where...
that was more last year. A
Yeah.
bit more because of COVID. We sort of did little
And it's going to be the
hobby
same
things.
this year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's Thursday night game. I think that, well, you're happy. The Thunder have the most home games,
I
which
know.
is at least
Sixers
half.
are very angry. They've
What?
got like none.
Yeah, the Sixers have hardly any, which is 4 home games. I bet they're.
Good, use it.
I know.
But I actually think that's good for the WBBL.
Nation.
Thunder Nation.
Like have a few games in a day.
Yeah.
Because if you're a family, you can go. It doesn't matter if you miss the beginning. There's a couple of games to watch. You get to see a lot of stars because across the 4 teams, you can have a lot of Australian stars. So I don't mind that. They say here one of the reasons they've done it is because of Channel 7 and costing. Obviously, you play more games at one venue, it saves costs. But, do you mind as a player if it's not conventional home and away?
I don't really, but like personally for fans and crowds, like we were playing, the Perth Scorchers in Tasmania and no one was really turning up. And it's not like we need a crowd, but it's still nice to play in front of at least someone's home crowd. But
yeah, I mean that was hard, wasn't it? They've got to do well if they do well marketing these carnivals, because I like the idea of, as I said, you can go and see a couple of games, and it means like there's a lot of games on TV, basically the whole.
Yeah, it's all coverage, which is good.
It's being covered.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? When it's on, you're getting 6 months of cricket, aren't you? Because you get the WBBL, which will start, and then it rolls into the domestic. Yeah, and it's like. I love that Thursday night WBBL game as well.
Yeah.
It's always on in the house, which is annoying to people who are over, but it's so... I mean, I'm a bit like you. Any cricket that's on, I'll put it on, even if it's
if it's just the background,
a 10-10 game in the middle of Europe.
The Brisbane Premier League, the BPL.
Pavel Florin has put his name in the draft.
Yes.
I'm
God,
like, we should get him. Yeah, he'd be amazing.
Play him one game.
Well, not even play him,
cult
just
hero.
like sign him on a
Marketing
mascot deal or something.
Yeah,
Get him to
just
race the mascots
like
around
the
the
Andrew
grounds.
Johns playing in the
To do some media coverage in the net.
the same bolt.
All right, we are almost done with the cricket headlines. Last one, the 100 has started. Phoebe, are you a fan?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Even though it's at an annoying time, so I can't really watch it unless I stay up late. But no, I love it. It's quick, fast, and entertaining.
Yeah, the women's 100 starts this Thursday. The trick is with the 100, you've just got to stay off Quick Info in the morning, and then you get up and you just put it on straight away. No spoilers. Well, would you like to play there one day, Phoebe?
I think so. That's probably the other domestic league that looks really cool to play, for female cricket at least. And I think, going overseas, I haven't done that before.
Do you have an agent or anyone yet?
Yeah, I do. Fraser.
Andrew Fraser, is he your agent? Okay,
yes.
Head of Manly Cricket Club.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's my
And
manager
Is
as
your
well.
manager
Socks.
too?
Yeah.
Did you know you had the same manager?
I knew he, but I'm guessing he didn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mitchell Stark's
to be
manager?
honest, Fraser doesn't really manage anything with me, so there's nothing to manage.
Yeah,
so
there's no money
Fair
coming
enough.
in.
we don't really chat, yeah. But there you go. But
There you
only,
go.
Maybe Fraser
only
can
the
get you-
best. Only the
maybe
best.
Fraser.
See?
Why hasn't Fraser got you
Hey,
playing?
Fraser, if you're listening.
Manly have a women's club?
They do have a women's club.
Are you coming over to play for Manly?
No, I'm not. I've been playing for Penrith since 15 because they're pretty much the closest to Sydney. I mean, closest from Sydney. From Orange, sorry. And I
3
just, only 3 hours instead of 4 hours. And I just don't see a reason to leave. I was going to, and then I was also going to play for unis because I thought I was going to go to USyd, but I've stayed at Penrith.
Bloody offers all over the.
So hopefully Fraser
you
can
just
get you
stayed
on.
loyal and strong. I
Stayed loyal
appreciate
to the
that.
reef.
I'm a Westie at heart. Good on you. Go,
Yeah.
go Penrith.
Where are you
But
from originally?
Richmond. So it's just
Richmond,
Hawkesbury.
wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Out on the airbase there.
That's it. That was in the RAF. Yeah.
What do you think of the 100, the format?
Yeah, great. I'm with you both. Yeah, I think it's a great conception. And again, trying to find that balance between timing and all the rest of it. But I like a few of the rule changes or law changes where they've got the fielder if you don't finish your overs in time, and it's a different way it's set up on the screen as well with the balls and the runs, and it's a unique and novel way, I think, of playing the game. 5 ball overs and you're bowling 10 in a row at some stage or whatever
It's
it is.
weird the way on the screen, so, it's got the score on one side, the
bit
ball's on the
confusing.
other, and it goes up for the first innings and then it comes down for the second innings.
Yeah.
I haven't quite mastered that. I almost think those two graphs should be next to each other or something.
Yeah. It's weird, and especially watching cricket for a long time, you look at the overs next to the runs and you sort of associate around the 10th over, you should be this. And the numbers, like having 80 balls, you're like, oh my God, how many overs? Oh, wait, it's not overs, it's 5 balls. So it's hard to get your head around, but...
It's hard to get your head around what's a good score as well.
I think so. And I think the first season of their...
So I've been looking at runs per ball and the stats. And, like Sean Abbott, I think, got hammered last night. Or maybe not hammered, but he leaked a few.
Okay.
You're a Sixers teammate. But the star power in the 100's there. I mean, it's drawn a lot of players from the world. I like the fact that the games are that little bit shorter. Like you were saying before with kids, like perfect for kids. This is 3 hours, start to finish. Nothing, no more.
I think they've hit the sweet spot with it. And if you get that good quality, I mean, it looks like the crowds are turning up in numbers. It looks like they're playing early in that early afternoon sort of the early games that I've watched so
weekends,
far.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and it's just there's less downtime in 100 ball contests. Guys are taking men and women are taking the bowler on early or taking more risks early. So it's that. There's no real you don't really find these dead rubbers either in 100 ball contests, I find, which is amazing. It's only 20 ball difference, but you still feel like you're in the game the whole time because it's I
wonder if they should look at playing like in the Big Bash, bowl 2 overs from one end, then switch. Because I think it works well in the 100 quick.
I agree.
5 balls, just change bowl, and no one has to. Change field.
Yeah, I do, especially when I'm fielding out at deep mid-wicket.
You'd love that, wouldn't you?
I do find it annoying when I just have to run, 100 metres across the field and then just run back. I'm like, why can't we just...
That's what you get. That's your crime for being a good fielder.
Do you love it when
hit the hot spots?
Yeah. Do you love it when you, like, younger members come into the squad, Phoebe, and you're like, oh, finally, I'm not going to have to, like, run from one side of the field to the other. They'll get, some other 16-year-old.
There's not many young people. Well, we're all pretty much the same age now.
Okay.
But... I don't think I want to give up the position because I love fielding.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I've seen you
Even though I
patrolling
have
the boundary, North Sydney Oval.
Sometimes I think in 50 over cricket, the boundary can get lonely, but in T20 it's really fun.
Signing autographs there.
You don't have time for that, man. It's in T20. You're on quick. That's right. Yeah. You're on the ball. And it is, I think, you look at gun fielders like Phoebe, they are put in hot spots and they, it's an art form for these fielders now. Like Jordan Silk would probably be our best, and the amount of work that he puts in on the rope. And that if you've got a good fielder out there, opposition teams won't run 2, or you might save a few, and those extra handful of runs can mean the difference. So as we're talking about, that multifaceted cricketer, seeing a player run from deep mid wicket to deep mid wicket, not only you need to be fit, but you're probably the team's best fielder. So there's a lot of responsibility in that. It's not just you run out there because you've been on that side of the field. A lot of good fielders, like Phoebe, like Silky, they know where they're going. So
do you love fielding, Phoebe?
I do. I sometimes find it, you're standing out there for 3 hours.
That's hours.
That's classic cricket. But no, I love, and I like training. Like I do love training for it. So I think that makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap the headlines up. So that's the cricket headlines brought to you by Piccolo Podcast. Now, to end this show, we've got a question from a listener, and then I'm going to throw a few curly ones at two legends here. But let's get this question first. This is from Frank. Do you think contracted Australian players should have it written into their contract that they must stay in Australia over the Australian summer, hence then having to play Big Bash Shield and not play in overseas leagues during our home summer season? I guess the key thing is contracted Australian players. So someone like Chris Lynn, not contracted, so
do I think they have to have that written in? No, I don't think they should. So I think players should have the right to be able to ask if they can go over and play in various tournaments.
So you'd be happy, say, New South Wales Blues squad member, plays in the Sheffield Shield, then he ducks off, January while there's no Shield, while the Big Bash is going on.
Players are still doing it, aren't they? They're going over and playing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then comes back and then continues on in the Shield.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, great. What about you, Phoebe?
I don't know.
This is a men's question, so you don't have to worry.
But I think it will be at some stage, the way the women's game's going.
Hopefully.
This will be right in your prime. So when you're in 5 years' time, you'll have to literally answer this question.
Phrase will be negotiating with Cricket Australia for you.
So when you're playing in all 7 women's leagues around the world.
Hypothetically.
And for Australia.
I don't know. I think yeah, I'm speaking from the women's perspective and, you know, trying to make the Big Bash as profitable as possible and entertaining. I'd love for like the best Australian players to play in it. And I think personally, if I was to sit down and watch the TV and, you know, David Warner and Steve Smith were playing in the Big Bash, I'd definitely probably watch more of it. Or if Paddy Cummins or Stark was running in, and especially as a young kids, they're like, oh my God. And they can go to the games and actually see them in person.
Marnus is playing.
Yeah.
So. I absolutely agree with the sentiment there, Phoebes. And I think that what I would like to see is those Australian players who want to come back during the summer. So they've finished the Test series and they have the option of playing Big Bash cricket, that they are funded outside of the contracting pool. So they can just nominate a team. They've got a marketing pool, I think, for the CA players. Just pay them out of that. So whatever it is, X amount per game. If you want to go back and play 2 games of Big Bash cricket, we'll pay you outside of it. You just nominate which team and you can slot in. I know that's really simple way of looking at it, because at the moment I think Australian players have to nominate their team to play in, and then
if they don't put some silly draft in the middle of the tournament, some silly reserve group, then
it's like, okay, well, Steve Smith, okay, he takes up the 18th spot in a squad, but then he might just be so tired at the end of a Big Bash season that he just go, look, I just can't be and then you're like, well, that spot could have gone to a young development cricketer, you know, could have gone to the next 18-year-old who could come in and learn around the squad. But then you don't want to deny Steve the opportunity, because as you said, I want to watch, if Pat Cummins just wanted to fly, say last year, for instance, if Pat Cummins or...
Well, even last year when Steve Smith was
back which was
wasn't allowed.
I was filthy as a Sixers player, but I was also filthy as a fan, and obviously so was Channel 7, which was well documented. But those players, like, even if we had to walk up against 5 players, say Josh Hazlewood would say he wanted to play for Perth, that's fine. If you wanted to come back, Pat Cummins said he wanted to play for Perth, he nominated Perth and said I want to play for Perth, and they just flew in for the final. Great. It's a great contest, and you've got the best players playing. So we should just never at all deny those Australian players any opportunity, male and female, if they want to come back and play for their clubs. Like you said, if you're watching it, if I'm watching it, I want to see the best players. When I'm playing it, I want to play the best players. So you've got to give them that opportunity somehow to be able to do that.
Yeah. Then, I mean, that's the trick, to get the best Australian players in there. So I was talking before about shortening. And one thing I was, thinking about, and I spent hours thinking about the Big Bash, like when I'm just in bed, like, daydreaming. And I was thinking, could they move the Big Bash now? So with all these competitive leagues, the one in South Africa, this UAE one, could they move the Big Bash to, like, say, start mid-December when school holidays start and go through just sort of early Jan, finish 10th of Jan. And then all the players can go. Then they start the tests. Then they play a few tests, like reverse the summer. Thoughts?
I don't know.
It's a radical idea.
Maybe get it in
still
writing.
be in the holidays, but then so all the white ball players can go and play in the UAE and make a fortune. You keep your test players here and you play 3 tests in January.
Don't you like? And we're in the cone of hypotheticals here with all of us, so we're just throwing out anything that could be hypothetical, which I love. But, you've got things that are synonymous with Australian cricket, the New Year's Day test, the Boxing Day test. It's going to be hard to knock those things off their perch, because they already resonate with generations and have their history and their own legacy and context. And then you're saying, well, all right, we're going to replace that with Big Bash cricket.
Yeah, well,
effectively, but you would get the best players, but then you're starting a test season in late January. Mid-January.
Still in school holidays.
But the Boxing Day test is like that's like my favourite time of the year.
Christmas.
You've done Christmas and you literally Christmas, but Boxing Day is not too far off that. Yeah. And then you sit there on the couch all day and just watch the cricket.
Yeah,
but if you could do it, I mean, it's in theory. I mean, then you're getting your best players for your domestic comp, and then you're still getting it. But then you've got to be able to then get those players from other countries who are willing to jump and play on January 10.
Because it'd be shorter.
If it's over Christmas,
5 tests after January 10, you reckon?
Maybe you play a couple before the Big Bash. You know how they tend to have some in November.
So you fly a team out for 2 tests, fly them home, play the Big Bash,
and then come back and play 3.
Yeah.
That team just like gets indulged into the
Or
big
the
bash
ashes,
teams.
the ashes. They
So
just
you
Oh yeah,
have
all the
to-
Poms just go out and
Yeah.
play, and then you come back after
Hey,
playing
put the
red.
Poms up at Coogee,
playing
they'll be
T20
thrilled.
straight into a red ball contest on January 10th.
Yeah, Root, you're going to play for the Sixers. Joffrey, you're going to go play for Perth.
Yeah.
No, but this was actually a study that was put out a few years ago that
Okay.
where they suggested this is the way they should do it. And
Yeah.
you know, I know I get the the Boxing Day test and I get the New Year's test, and I love tradition.
And Adelaide now has
But
its own.
life is changing, you know.
Yeah.
You can't control market forces. Like, ideally, I would say to the UAE and Cricket South Africa, don't start your fucking leagues. Like, it's Australian summer, fuck off, it's ours.
Yeah.
But they will say, well, get stuffed.
Yeah, but I think if you were to take out the Boxing Day test and the New Year's test, I reckon that's losing probably more than what you're gaining if you put it.
That's the issue.
Well, maybe you don't play 5, you play 3 tests over that, and then as you said, you maybe split the tour. So it's not maybe such a silly idea that maybe you play 2 or 3 against one country and then 2 because is 5 too many?
Yeah.
Because
You
the
play
West
little clumps
Indies
and
are
you
coming
still
for
get
2
it.
this year,
Yeah.
and the South Africans are 3, so you could play 2 against the West Indies, then you big bash, then 3 tests against South Africa.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
And Boxing Day could be a bloody Melbourne derby, Renegades v the Stars. I mean, it's huge.
they did have one of their derbies. I think got about 90,000,
Yes,
didn't it? One
exactly.
year.
Pretty cool.
All right, Manners, you're groundbreaking here. Heard it
Height.
here first.
Put it
Big
in
bash.
writing.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, it was just
Send
an
it to the
idea.
boss.
All right. Now, Phoebe, I was doing some research.
Yes.
So obviously, you played in the bushfire appeal game in
Yes.
early 2020. And I was looking at the lineup. So you were in a batting lineup
that was
with
a
Ponting,
hell of a team.
Langer, Lara, Litchfield.
I know.
Well, what was
Sticks out
that?
like a sore
and
thumb.
you,
Bit
you
low.
made
Bit low. You reckon you
I
should have
reckon. I was like, no, I'm joking.
you made
Hang on
9,
there, BCL, Lara. Let me go. I got this
Yeah.
covered.
Oh, God.
9 off 12 deliveries. The late Andrew Simons dismissed you.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, what was that experience like? You mean you were so young. Like,
It was really when Alex first asked me, I was like, no way, like I couldn't do this, and
why do you think Alex asked you?
I'm not sure. I think they needed a
Because you're talented.
well, yeah, I guess I got a bit of media coverage in my first year, and they're like, this next big, I don't want to like label myself
Prodigy.
as that, yeah, but they sort of used
No
me
pressure.
as that. But like, I didn't want to do this and be like, oh, she did the bushfire bash and went nowhere. Like, I feel like the people who do those things have played cricket and like are famous and
Yeah,
have
like
like
Lara's done
finished
okay.
oh, of course. And so I was like, why am I here? But then I had a chat with I don't know who, and they were like, this is like the lifetime opportunity. Like you'll
Yeah.
never. And I was like, yeah, you're
so
right.
jealous.
Let's do it. And yeah, it was like the best day of my life.
Really?
Well, pretty, yeah. I reckon.
Wow.
Except for Christmas.
Yeah, except for Christmas. I love Christmas. no, debuts, and real like proper cricket, yeah, it ranks pretty high. But it was just surreal. And
So what was great about meeting these stars? I mean, what was it like walking out onto the field with
Yeah.
absolute living legends?
well, it was weird. Like when they're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, and I'm like, hi. They're like, they'd say their name, and I'm like, I know who you are. And then just being in like
I'm
the
Sachin
chain.
Tendulkar.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
you're like,
nice to meet you.
oh, nice
Who
to meet you. Who's
Oh, you're the bloke got my number 3 batting spot.
Yeah, God. And then just being in the change room with them, and yeah, it was just weird to see them in person because I've only seen them on the TV screen.
And did you have any
So
chats with any of them in particular?
I do remember having a chat with Sachin. There's like a picture on an iPhone. It's a really bad picture, but I'm like talking to him. It's really cool. But he just said, "Oh, you're quite elegant," and I was like, "Wow, thanks." And that's all I remember. It was a blur though. It went
I know Alex Blackwell said that you were batting, and I think Sachin or someone came up to her and said, "Oh, how good you looked out there."
Wow, what from the best looking batter in the world saying that you looked elegant.
Yeah, there's a bit of Brian Lara in your batting technique. Have you seen much of him bat?
I have, and he's one of my dad's favourite cricketers. And he literally came on after me and, I don't know, hit probably 30 off like 10 balls. And it's just so elegant.
He's obviously
so,
higher backlift than you, but
Yeah, massive. But no, I don't think I'm that similar to him. But
I think lefties in general just look better. Like the good
yeah.
lefties have just looked
yeah.
classier.
But you find some bad lefties and you're like, oh. Bad lefties look bad.
That's right. Bad lefties look like they should be batting right-handed.
Who's that lefty for the England, the opening batter, who just had the worst technique?
Burns, Rory.
Yeah, he looked pretty bad.
Bad lefty.
Yeah.
Well, you said you were worried
He's
that
a good lefty.
you were worried that
Yeah, he's playing for there.
you were worried that that'd be it. Plays in the bushfire game, and then in 10 years it'll be like a little thing in the paper. Oh, what's Phoebe doing now? Well, don't worry, because you won the BBL the next summer.
It was pretty cool.
Beating the Melbourne Stars at North Sydney Oval.
Yeah.
I love the semi-final win over the Heat.
Yes.
That was one of the great nights of cricket at North Sydney Oval. And then the beating the Stars, like there's nothing better than watching. And I mean, I had the best year because the Sixers beat the Stars in the men's later that year. Watching the Stars lose a Big Bash final is the best thing.
Yeah.
And Meg Lanning was pissed off.
I will say, like, they should have won the Big Bash. Like, I'll say it. Like, I think I said it after we won. I was like, they had such a good season. They were top. We weren't, I don't think we were the best side, but we just managed to win that day. And I think, especially the semi, like, that was crazy. I think they needed less than a run a ball at a stage, and we took like 6 for 12 or something.
Sammy Joe turned it around.
So, yeah, it was quite surreal, and I think that's why it hasn't really sunk in, because I was like, I sort of went into that game knowing, like, we're definitely the underdogs. So if we win, it's a miracle, and we did, and the rest is history. But yeah,
what was the party time?
Oh, it was such a cool day. Yeah, it was very cool. But I was underage, so.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. So you behaved yourself?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then finally, so, you're in the Breakers now. It feels like the Breakers is kind of in transition. It's a hard act to follow, when they win every year, and then now it's a young side.
Yeah.
Hasn't won the last couple of years. How are you sort of going in the team?
Yeah, it's all right. It's been, rebuilding since I sort of started, which is, 4 years now, or the fourth year. Wow. Anyway, so... yeah, it's been tough, but it's also been really cool to grow as this group. We've had Rachel Treneman leave, which has been a massive loss. She's probably our best batter, but it gives, more young players an opportunity. And I think, in 5 years' time, when we're all in mid-20s, we're going to be really good. So I think it's worth the few years of learning to play as a team and sort of developing our game to then be the side that we were the last 12,
20 years.
20 years,
20 titles.
Really
is it hard sort of playing in that shadow?
I think the first year I did find it weird when, I was like, oh, the Breakers win, and we sort of didn't. And I was like, oh, it's a weird feeling. And I could see the senior players felt that. They were like, oh, because it's the first time they, literally lost. But I think it's fine.
It's good for women's cricket.
I think
that
it
the
is
other
good.
states
and every state is getting better and better, and the playing field's much even now.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to watching your games over the summer.
Under Gab Twining, how's he going?
He's going really well.
He's a ripper, isn't he?
He's so good.
That's
I love
the
him.
coach now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a former assistant with the Sixers. I think he did pathway stuff, but we were very sad to see him go because he was such a big part of our squad and team. But I couldn't imagine a better guy leading a team. He's just got the whole balance.
Yeah, and so much energy and so much care for the players. I think that's what it is. And he knows a lot about cricket.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
And how's that new centre? So for those listening, there's a big New South Wales cricket centre out at home.
Opening 12th of August.
It's opening 12th of August.
Is it? The date?
It's open, isn't it?
No, it's the grand opening.
Grand opening.
I don't know what the date is. I should plug it. No,
It's all right.
Anyway.
How is it though?
Oh, it's amazing. Have you been there?
Yeah.
They don't allow him in. There's a sign at the door.
No socks allowed.
No socks allowed.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of socks, I read an article, about you re-signing with the Sixers, and it wrote Sock retired many years ago. See, it wasn't that long ago, and he didn't. I don't know if he retired.
I got sacked. Yeah.
But
there's a subtle difference between retiring.
Yeah.
Being pushed or jumping.
Yeah, pushed out the door. Well, it said in this article on Crick Info that you were doing a bit of coaching, a bit of mentoring. You've spent a bit of time with Matt Kuhneman. Are you doing a bit of coaching? What's the plan now for a retired Sock?
Yeah, a little bit of coaching at Manly. So I still play for Manly. Play a bit of their white ball stuff this season. Did a bit of spin bowling coaching with the Manly juniors, the seniors, and as well as the female team. So I enjoyed that. It was good fun.
Do you want to be a coach?
No, I don't think I'll ever be a full-time coach. But I think it's important when you've played to be able to help pass on some of your knowledge in any area that you've done it. So I think I'll still be connected to the game. I just don't think it'll be in a serious capacity as a coach. So, you know, I like going down to training without the frills of having to say, all right, this is what we're trying to do. I help Manly out with the coaching structure that we've got down there as best I can. So cricket will always play a role. I just don't know how much that'll be in the future.
Okay, interesting. I know with spin bowling there's a real thing that, you know, you should pass on the knowledge from each generation because it's a real art form. So, like, so I think it's important.
I think it's with any skill in the game. I think you've got to have that attitude. And I'd learnt that from Greg Matthews, Stuart McGill, Jason Crozier, that it was important to, he would call it a brotherhood, that you'd pass it on. But I think the best players do, you know, from watching, you know, Steve Smith and Warners and those kinds, fast bowlers, even Hazelwood Starks, Lyon to an extent with myself, you know, they are so, the door's always open with them if you want to go and ask them or challenge them or question them. They are so giving of their time. And it reflects into their performance. If they're giving, then, you know, people are more receiving and then helping them in back. And you're just helping the game become stronger. And I'm sure Phoebe probably gets it in with the squad that you're in at the moment. You said you've got a lot of, like, your teammates or mentors are a bit younger, but I'd assume it would be the same with your teammates wanting to pass on knowledge and insights and, as you said, learning from their mistakes earlier on.
Yeah, especially to the young girls growing up now. Like, they've got academies, they've got pathways, and especially when I was young, it was the coolest thing to see.
What do you mean when you were young?
No, like when I was
younger.
I'm still young. When I was like 10, 12, you know, you'd see Alyssa Healy at Breakers training, you'd go, oh my God. And if she came up and spoke to you, it'd be like the best ever. So I think
that'll be you now.
Hopefully
passing
doing
that on to the next generation. Good on
and
you.
helping them. So
yeah, that's it.
Got a question for you then while Phoebe's here. Like, you know, you've seen a lot of, you know, been in the first class system for a long time, and a lot of players come onto the scene, a lot of potential, and then at some point something clicks and they start to realise that potential. You know, what have you seen as someone who's done it yourself, but other players? You know, what is it that helps a player just take that next step?
I think you'd see over time there's a lot of talented players and you'd see them coming up through the age groups, and Phoebe would have seen everyone sees them and they come through. I think what teams want, ideally, I mean, there's going to be so much talent out there, but they want consistent results. Coaches want it. The bosses want it. They want you to win games. So the way they get that is through consistency. So for me, it's a lot about like how mentally players prepare, how they train, and then when they get in the game sense, you know, being able to assess the conditions pretty quickly, maybe at times play their B game and C game instead of their A game, and being able to assess those conditions really quickly. So it's guys who've got games that are adaptable, and they're the guys that it'll take a bit of time, because you see the really talented players come through and think they can play the same innings consistently and just get away with it. And it might be the one day that they get the 90 off 70, but it's the balance, right, of being able to. That's their day for 90 off 70. Then the next one's a bit trickier and it's sort of 60 off 110 in a red ball game, and that was a match-winning performance. So for me, it's all mental, and you see it change in plays. You know, Dave Warner stepped onto the scene and was just great the whole way along. Could just play in any conditions and assess it and do really well. Phil Hughes was the same as a youngster. Steve Smith was the same, but he took his game to another level. So he was sort of, you'd get out playing a silly shot on maybe 80 and you're like, geez, you've thrown away 200 because you're that good. So for me, it's all about mental application, and when guys get their routines in place, when they get balanced off the field, when they're playing to not just for themselves but to win a game of cricket. I know it's easily said, but when they're worried about the team and how their performance will contribute, that looks different every week. When they get into that sort of consistent mind frame of every week trying to win a game for their team and doing it, then, you know, the sky's the limit. But, you know, and as I said, Phoebe would have seen it, but you see so many talented kids come through and you're like, oh, you've got it, but it's so much more than just being able to hit a nice cover drive. And
because I was talking to Phoebe before you turned up, and Phoebe was saying she wants to stay a bit more level, you know, emotionally, not going up and down. And that seems to be really important. You thrust onto the scene, and it can be high and low, but it's just no matter whether it's 100 or a duck, staying about the same.
That's easy.
Basically, yeah. Well, but that's right. It's like, and that's being in control of your mental and emotional well-being in cricket, which is professional sport. It's the hardest thing to do because you're thrust in front of fans, expectations, and you've got to somehow to put all that together and, validate yourself in how you go out and perform and justify it to yourself and then be able to pick yourself up next week and sort of brush yourself off. It's a really daunting and hard place to be for athletes performing and consistently do it. I think it's really, it's a different tangent. We don't have the time, but sport can be really unhealthy at times for a lot of people because, you're competing all the time and that's your job. And I don't think competing every day of the week is necessarily extremely healthy. So it's people who can manage that the best are the ones that will.
You look at Usman Khawaja at the moment. He cares, but he's made it pretty clear that he's really dialed down his obsession with scoring runs, and he's got a family, and cricket's just a part of his life, and his test centuries are flowing.
Yeah, he's the great yardstick at the moment of a 35-year-old who's gone out and you thought maybe he was gone, and then he's just reinvigorated his batting in Australia, and then now he's almost one of the first picks.
Mindset's really playing into that.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? We want to pick the next young superstar, but it's always the older guys that. It's even in big bash cricket, you tend to think, we want the young, fit, and the guys that can go, and that there is a part for it, but. You watch a lot of the older, Greg Shipperd will say that experience never gets old, and I think it's right in some areas. And I'm so happy to see guys like him do well because all that years of experience and working really hard and then being able to express it on the national stage when they've got their game so complete, they know it so well, they know their own strengths, weaknesses, and then comfortable in their own skin on and off the field.
You played a lot with Uzi, didn't you?
I got playing with Uzi, yep. Yeah, well, that whole cream of that Australian team, I remember playing second 11 and stuff through, except they just sort of went on and I just went.
Wow. The king of Poon, 12 for 70.
Yeah, one hit. Who else had a one-hit wonder? Well, that's me.
I don't know, if Gary wasn't so beloved, you might have got some more opportunities. Last question, then, while we're on spin, and we'll wrap this up. Just quick one. Looking ahead, we've seen Australia play in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. We've seen the spin bowlers. Where do you think sort of Australia's spin bowling stocks are heading into sort of India next year?
You got this one?
Oh, please. I cannot even bowl.
Come on,
They don't ask me. They ask me to get out of the net when I try to bowl them.
But you still try and get in there and have a bowl? You get in there?
I try, but I hit the top net and then the side net.
But at least you're trying to do the team thing. You're trying to help your teammates out.
Yes.
Well, you got to add that extra string to your bow. Work on your offies or leggies or medium
right arm
pace.
bowler. You said right arm offie, yeah?
Straight breaks, yeah.
That's all right. As long as
he made a career of straight breaks.
Straight breaks.
Thanks, mate. Is that the final question?
So where do you think we're in?
Our spin stocks are as strong as we've ever seen them. I'm excited with who we have at the moment playing for Australia, Swepson and Lyon. I think we've got some great part-timers. Absolutely you can. I think you can. Then you've got part-timers in Labuschagne and Maxwell who might play, and then behind them you've got, say,
Eddie.
John. Yeah, we've got Hetty, of course. You've got Hetty who's in that team as well. So talk about these players adding a string to their bow. I love these players who come in and can take 4 for. They're batters and they get picked to batting, right? They're not getting picked because of their 3 for in a Shield game. But then being able to step up onto that stage and add value to that team is priceless. But then behind them you've got Kuhnemann, you've got
Agar. What do you think of Ash?
Yeah, I think Agar should play. I think they should try and find a way to fit all 3 in because he's all-round cricket is amazing. One of the most talented all-round cricketers in the country. And then you've got Kuhnemann, Holland, Tanveer Sangha, who I think, he's going to have a big career for state and Australia. So I think our stocks are as good as I've seen them right across the board. And and then guys behind them, Menentes and Tommy Andrews and Popes.
No one's heard of him who's listening, but I have.
Yeah. So look, he's played for the Sixers, but I think
he got a contract with Tassie.
He's with South Australia.
South Australia, that's it.
Yeah. So I think overall our spin depths and quality is good, and I love the fact that they stuck with Swepson in the last series, and we'll go with him again in the next one. And I can see Gaz taking another 200 wickets because, as we were talking about before, experience never gets old, and he's only getting better and more durable. So why would you not pick him? So if you can fit 2 to 3 spinners in and around him, or if he does get injured, you got those backup with games underneath them. So I'm excited about our spin bowling depth.
I mean, you were in India in 2017. You know, you won the first test so close. There were times in that series where Australia really could have walked away with, you know, the coveted win in India. You know, do you think we've got the manpower to do it next year?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep. I think it's all there. You think about some of the, as we were talking about earlier, the all-rounders that we've got and the players of spin that we've got. It's not going to be easy, but I think, and the fast bowling stocks that we've got as well. So, yes, I think we absolutely. I think we'll go over, probably underestimated again, and it'll be the, as it is every time we go, it's the worst team they've ever seen and the worst spin bowler and the worst batting, blah, blah, blah. And we'll go over and compete because that's what Australians do well. I think last time we got close, but it's set the platform for the next team to go over, and I think that team will have that experience behind them that they'll put it into good use, and it would just be a fantastic day to see India toppled at home. That is, as Justin Langer called it, the Everest for the male cricket team, and I believe beating them over there is as well. So I think they'll be able to do it next season.
A good, positive way to end this episode of Cricket Unfiltered. Do you think we can win over there next year, Phoebe?
Yes.
Do you care?
Yes, of course. Australian cricket through and through.
Yeah.
I loved watching Australia play in Pakistan and Sri Lanka.
Well, the men have got to step up. I mean, you know, the women are winning everything. They've got the trifecta of cricket. Yeah, World Cups, T20s, or winning tests and winning medals.
Yeah, that's it.
The men are a laggard, so they've got to.
Actually, the men and women are T20 champions at the moment.
Yeah, sorry. I guess
True.
we have won a World Cup, haven't we? So
Doing pretty well.
That was pretty good.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I underestimated them.
Yeah.
Yes, I famously said on Cricket I famously said on this
Not that it
podcast.
cares, but like, cricket through and through.
Never
I
winning in Australia.
underestimated.
Yeah, I love Australia cricket, but they're not winning.
I said Australia cannot win the World Cup, and they did. So,
They did.
Well, say they can't win in India, and then we'll win.
well, maybe
Maybe
we'll
it'll
win.
happen.
Well, Phoebe, thanks for coming on Cricket Unfiltered, making your debut.
Thanks, Spinners.
It was great to have you. Sock, great to have you on.
What a pleasure. Thank you for sitting here and chewing the fat with both of you. It's very insightful and enjoyable.
Yep, Phoebe, good luck with your training.
Thank you.
And your studies.
Thank you.
And your
Sock,
season this
good
year.
luck with your
No, I'm not doing
Good luck
anything.
to
diet
Yeah,
and
good luck.
your
Yeah.
renovations.
Good luck.
Trying to
at
get my
home.
weight down from 95 to something appropriate for a tight pink magenta shirt.
Yeah, and you're on the radio a couple of times a week, so if you enjoyed this
Yeah.
episode, I think it's in Sydney.
Yep.
Sock's there talking rubbish a couple of times a
Yeah,
week.
Get on.
Nice.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Cricket Unfiltered. We'll be back next week.